Good morning, everybody. This is Jack Gleason with Startuptrading.com. It's a little before 9. I guess I started a little early this morning. But we're going to be looking at the economic events for the week. It is July 14th. This evening for a Red Star News event, the Bank of Japan is going to have their monetary policy statement and their Bank of Japan Outlook report for U.S. news today. It's really pretty light. FOMC member Brainerd will be speaking at 2 p.m. That's definitely something, considering the volatility in the indexes and our trend lower, that we're going to want to pay attention to coming out of the lunch time frame. Possible reversal if he makes just even the slightest comment about providing stimulus for the markets. And then we're going to have in the overnight session CPI for the Great Britain pound and the Bank of Japan press conference. Tomorrow morning, out of the Canadian dollar, we're going to have the Bank of Canada rate statement, overnight rate, and Bank of Canada press conference, and then crude oil inventories. So there is, as I mentioned previously this week, there is a lot of central bank news. So Bank of Japan, the Bank of Canada, and then ECB press conference on Thursday, with the monetary policy statement as well. So both the euro, yen, and the Canadian central banks are making interest rates decisions this week. So that's going to be pretty important. I mean, I don't even know if they're unchanged or whatever, but it's enough to bring in some volatility. I've titled this video Indexes Target Down or Target Lower, and I do want to go over what those setups are. First off, I will just start with the Nasdaq, because yesterday that was kind of the highlight of my video. It was like, how far can the Nasdaq go? Well, yesterday was about as far as we were going to go, at least for the time being. Interesting note, and I posted this on my Instagram. If you don't follow it, it's just startup_trading. Check it out, because I post interesting trading insights on there. But the Nasdaq, for the first time since like the 2000 high, we were up 2% into an all-time high, and then closed down 1%. So obviously there was a 500 point range in the Nasdaq into a new all-time high. So that's a pretty heavy candle. So let's look at that candle on the daily. That is the biggest candle, the biggest reversal candle we have in here, and it is also, from a volume perspective, that was the heaviest volume we've had so far in the September contract, inside of the September contract. So it was quite a reversal. As far as support goes, we need to just note where we came from to understand where we could possibly go. There was a traditional from excuse me, the low of what was May 5th to the high that completed profit targets, and then there was another traditional from the low of the 15th to high that also completed profit targets. That completed its negative 61 yesterday, and there was actually an extension in here that ended up basically being the high of the prior day. Now, because we had those two previous traditionals, that means we have traditionals below. And I want to point out, number one, what I think is really the most significant level we could possibly run into today. And if you watch Perry's video before mine, he had a level, I think it was about 10 points below mine, so it might as well be right at it. They're basically equal. So it was the low of June 15th, which is the low of the September contract, too high, and that is down at 10,213. We want to pay attention to that, and we want to pay attention to the low from the 29th to high. These are both two major traditional levels here. Now I'm going to go to the hourly chart, and I'm going to show you what it's going to take to confirm. We've just hit the downside target from last night. I shared these levels. We have just completed the downside target from 10,671. That is a 150 point profit target to the downside. We are in extension shorts, and support does not confirm until we will break this extension. Now, there is potential levels here. This is one of them, this 10,498, but unless we break this extension, we're not going to confirm any of these supports to have upside targets. That doesn't mean that they can bounce. They absolutely can. So what we'll be looking for, now that we have a completion of the measured move short, the extension short from last night, we have a same anchor new low. That is our next setup. We just completed the target. Now we could continue to go straight down without trading this, but the next setup, the 38% retracement lines up perfectly with where we broke down from. It is a 10,600. And the next support level I have below would be 10,392 half. Perry's level, he had a level at 10,382, I believe. So inside of this zone, I do expect us to get the first half an hour should be pretty wild up until the 10 o'clock time frame. So just remember those time frame reversals that I have in the Discord. Moving on to the Dow, which is actually holding up better than the Nasdaq. The Dow, if you look on the daily, the Dow is weaker on this higher time frame, right? The Dow is much weaker. The Nasdaq is through highs, and maybe there's a rotation out of there. But basically, the Dow had a failed breakout yesterday. We've been inside of this wedge. We tried to clear above it, but then we failed back below. The Dow is inside an extension as well. The extension is from 26,305. Those downside targets here, the Dow 25,822. And as long as we stay below this 61.8, we are in a bearish trend. On the higher time frame levels, I would expect us to get down to the full 50% retracement in the Dow from the June 15th low to high. I would expect to get retested. Now, this has been really the nearer at the bottom of the range and where we were on Friday. So for us to get back down there would be no surprise. That is going to be below the negative 61 of the current extension. So if that trades today, it's a 25,535. That would be a reversal point I would look for. It's also the 78% retracement pullback of the most recent swing low. So the Dow is bearish below 26,156 with our first downside target 25,822, and I wouldn't even look for like a blind reversal until we get all the way down to those lows. Moving on to the ES, I was looking at this support level yesterday, 31.33 as a potential like blind limit, but now that we've traded the short before the long, I don't really like that setup as much because it basically gives us a downside target. What I want to watch for is what is the full 50% retracement. Once again, it's from that June 15th low to high. That would take us quite a bit lower. It takes us back to the bottom of this range. I also want to draw what is a trend line here. Yeah, that's probably, that trend line's not even going to come into play. So what above us, we need to be aware. This low here, this zone from like 3183 to 3187 was the prior high of June 6, and it was where we broke down from. That also is a 50% retracement short as right now. The ES going into this morning is going to be completing the extension target. The extension target from the overnight session. This was the draw shared last night, and I said if we're going into the close inside of extension shorts, that is pretty bearish. And that is, we literally tagged that 50% retracement. We are going to be completing the 31.29 profit target. Once we do, we'll have a same anchor to the new low, but I wouldn't even consider us, even getting in the territory of a reversal until we get past these negative 61s. This is really going to be one of the days that you're going to want to be paying attention to in the trade room, and I will be able to map this out as it develops. As far as what we have here this morning, it's an extension with a downside target that's about to complete, and then we'll have a same anchor new low. But if we continue through lows, I'm thinking, ideally the picture perfect day for me here in the S&P 500 for a really good trade would be us reversing out of the 2 o'clock time frame into the close after getting below last Thursday's and Friday's low. I want to see some higher time frame stops taken out. There's a lot of momentum to the downside. Do not be picking lows too early here because we have downside targets, and this is really the first time in a while that we've had extensions into the low. Now, if we break this extension, it's longs back on, they're coming right back. We don't want to be totally false to that we can just fall lower just, under that blind belief. But if we continue to hold through these extensions, we will continue to rotate to the lower end of the range. Moving on to CL, which had a little bit of a double top situation yesterday. Now, CL has been in the range too, and it's been pretty tight. We started to pick up volatility last Thursday. Friday, we retraced the entire move. We held a 50% retracement long on Monday, and then that broke, and we held a 50% retracement short. Oil is technical to the downside. 38.67 is your downside profit target. I have no support till 38, but really, let's just back out a bit. I'm going to look at a 4-hour chart. If we start losing, this trend line, which we'll basically lose on the completion of this target, we could rotate all the way back to the bottom here near the 34 quarter range. If we rotate to the bottom of this range, there's a lot of room to fall. So once we complete this short target here in CL is absolutely a market that is going to be tradable to the downside here, especially if we're going down and completing. The USD JPY. So what do we have coming up for news events? We have the Japanese yen monetary policy statement tonight. We are inside of a 50% retracement short. Last night we had a perfect front run of 4 pips. Okay, it was a perfect front run. We rotated lower. We are holding an extension long versus a traditional short. 107.39 is the traditional short here for the USD JPY, and that targets a 106. 27. Now, if the news lines up with the setup, that easily could be completing here tomorrow, because there is that monetary policy report. However, if we hold above 107.13, we are going to squeeze all the way back to the 108 area. We are going to squeeze all the way back to 108 and possibly through. So paying attention to what happens at this extension is just as important to seeing if we continue to get a reaction to the short. The Aussie dollar had a breakdown into the close along with the indexes, and we have held this 50% retracement short. We are bearish below 69.65 with the downside target of 69.03 for the Aussie dollar. And we have come from the top of the range. At this point in time, this long at 69.16 would need to confirm. It traded in a front run, and a front run, and a front run. So a fourth test will have a downside target. Not something I want to buy. If we get down to the 69.03, we're most likely just going to continue in a short sequence and not hold that long setup. The euro is at a interesting inflection point. Now, we have a previous high. We have a third touch of a trend line. Actually, it's a fourth touch of a trend line. And we have a negative 23% profit target from the traditional that traded on Friday morning. So all up here, we just have, a couple of confluence levels, potential reversal. Once we hit that target at the 113.86, we could fall all the way back down into the next traditional. We could fall all the way back down, and that would be like a 66 pip drop. The pound, this is going to be interesting. We're going to be running into an extension at 124.97 here. 124.97. We're in an extension short versus a higher time frame extension long. This extension long, if we trade it and we break above a 125.57, it confirms its support, and its upside target is 127.49. So the pound is going to be in a very interesting development here, depending on what we do, whether we hold its higher time frame extension or continue through the profit targets. USD CAD, we're at the top of the range. We're holding the extension. The only thing I'm interested in the CAD is if we rotate higher. We have 2 targets up here as well as a previous swing high. So if we get up to the 136.60 area, I'm going to throw an alert up there. I'll be looking for a potential reversal. Other than that, the only thing I'd like to see from the long side is a 135.61 support. 135.61 support would be a retest of the halfway back long that we broke. We traded it, we broke it, and then we rallied. So a higher or lower is really the only time I'm getting interested in. Gold, oh boy, this just broke an extension. So there was a confluence level here in GC, which was from the low of Friday, the 626 low to high. That was a 50% retracement. and it traded at 1791.9. Now, we have rotated out of that. There was an extension here, but we have actually just come into the halfway back long. There was an incredible reaction. So 92s rallied 17 points. We rallied 17 points after touching that support level. Now, we've come into the 1804 halfway back. As long as we stay above 1798, guys, we got valid upside targets at 1814 here today. So both gold and silver have come into their next daily measure moves. This was in the levels yesterday. 1932, we traded it. We have bounced. We're bullish above 1920. And with all of the central bank meetings this week, ECB, we could rally on ECB. We could rally on the Japanese yen. Anytime central banks are coming in, that's when metals usually move. So these are definitely markets to pay attention to. If we break back below 1798 here, then I would think we're just going to a retest of the 92, and I think gold would get sloppy. So we'll have to see what happens, because it does look like we are coming down into that. That is going to wrap up my morning trade plan. Just remember, those indexes do have targets at the lower end of the range. Just be careful trying to long them. I know we've been in a very aggressively bullish market, and longs have been working almost every single day. But today is definitely one of those days to wait for the deeper pullbacks in the trend breaks before you get super eager to go long. But anyway, take care. I'll talk to you guys in the trade room, and have a good day.